air is dry. Your lips are already cracking. And the desert doesn't care if you're ready. So step forward. This is the Silk Road. Our road begins in the east, where the Tarim Basin gave way to life. It was once known as Shufu by the Uyghurs, the oasis city. But around the 10th century in Song Dynasty China, records began to describe the city as Kashgar. There are debates as to how exactly the name Kashgar came about, but we do know that both the 2nd century Roman geographer Ptolemy as well as the 7th century Buddhist scholar Huanzhang respectively wrote the city as Kasi and Kasha. This crossroad of empires solicited much trade in the way of caravan and merchant. Of course, such travelers would need proper fueling and rest along the way. Cities like Kashgar offered just that, and because of its crux nature, made for exotic relays of food. This wasn't just limited to Kashgar. Fixed food stations known as caravanserai operated in much the same way. These were sprinkled throughout the Silk Road, in both set cities and sparse zones. Now, every chronicler who passed through Kashgar wrote about the same thing first: the bread. In fact, even Battuta, a legendary traveler who crossed half the earth, paused his travelogue just to praise it. In Volume 2 of his work Travels, he wrote that their bread is of the finest quality. So great, we've got our side, but we'll need a main. And we'll find that in a 10th century-esque Uyghur recipe for lamb skewers. But because little remains in food records from the Silk Road today, we'll have to work backwards and use what would have been available in Kashgar during the period. But before we do that, let's talk about what the Silk Road was exactly. First, it was more of a network of routes and passages than a single fixed path. At its peak, it stretched across more than 8,000 kilometers of land and sea, spanning across China, Persia, Aleppo, and even to Byzantine and Venetian spears. But goods and people rarely completed the entire journey. Instead, they passed through regional middlemen, Sogdian merchants, Persian traders, and Turkic nomads, as well as countless other groups whose names just never survived. But when the Mongols ushered in the Pax Mongolia under Genghis Khan, the entire network surged back to life. Traders could suddenly travel with a greater sense of security and more standardized rates. They were guaranteed protection, and there were various trade points along the way. And despite the name, it wasn't just silk that traveled the roads either. Entire religions like Buddhism and technologies found their global genesis through these Silk Road networks. And because everyone needs a cook, sure enough, the foods traveled too. But a merchant's meal was never just about meat. It needed spices. And we know that cumin and peppercorns, the defining seasonings of modern Uyghur lamb skewers, were already moving along Central Asian trade routes by the medieval period. Cumin appears in early Chinese medical texts, such as the Ben Chao Gongmu, noted for its fragrance and medicinal qualities, while red peppercorns were a long-time staple ingredient in Western China. Something amusing is that even garlic was considered a medicinal item, not something to be eaten casually. I'll add a few additional ingredients like massaged onions, black pepper, coriander seed, Sichuan peppercorns, and salt. All of these would have been available during the time and line up well with modern recipes. So, with everything put together, we have just what a Kashgar cook would have needed. The fire's waiting. Let's cook our first Silk Road meal. You're going to start with 1 kilogram of all-purpose flour. To that, you're going to go ahead, add in 2.5 teaspoons of salt. I'm going to do around this much here. Next, you're going to add in 2 tablespoons of sugar. If this is your first time around making this, it's better to measure it. But if you've done this a decent amount of times, you can pretty much eyeball things. Give that a little mix. Next, you're going to go ahead and add in 2 whole eggs. Make sure these are around room temperature. That way everything will incorporate correctly. Afterwards, you're going to add in your vegetable oil, 120 grams. You can use olive oil if you'd like, but this vegetable oil just gives us a nice neutral taste. Next up, you're going to add in your yeast. That's 1 entire pack of active dry yeast. I'm using Red Star here, but you can use any that you like. Finally, you're going to add in 440 grams of milk. First, using a spatula, just start mixing everything. And what we're going to do later is we're going to turn this out and start kneading it by hand. So at this point now, you can turn it out onto your clean work surface and back to kneading. And after 15 minutes or so, you should have a really nice, supple dough like this. Look how supple that is. And the test is, when I press into it, share little pats, like little kisses, like that. So now, I'm just going to shake this, pulling and turning. So just put a little bit of flour underneath, place this down, and cover it with your bowl for about 1 hour. So now it's been about an hour. Wow, look at that. Look how much it rose. Stick your finger in and the hole stays down. That means you're good to go. So now you just punch it down. And the reason we're doing this is because the first rise, the bubbles are almost always irregular. For the secondary rise, we'll get nice, even, and fluffy. Just take this, and I want you to cut it into 4 sections, okay? Just very simply. Cut there, around there, right? Now, you're deep, and then here. So take these like this. Just tuck in those corners of each of them. Using your dominant hand, mine is my right. I'm going to take this here. I'm going to pull back, and my left hand's just going to brace. I'm going to do like this, in a rocking motion. And what you're going to see that do is it's going to make that top surface become really nice, taut, and smooth. And I'm pulling and I'm pinching in at the bottom. Do that to the other ones. I'm going to cover them with a damp cloth, rag, linen, whatever you have. You're going to cover these for about 15 minutes. Something else I've prepared here is this little infused oil. It's onion. We're going to spoon a bit of that over the top and rub it in before we bake. Okay, now it's time to roll these out. Put these 2 off to the side. Let's use this one. Just press this out, roll it out a bit, lightly, rotate it. Next, I'm going to start shaping this up like a pizza almost. I want you to press out like this. And if it can even help, if you pick it up momentarily and just rotate it like this with your thumbs, touching every now and then.
to build a little bit of a perimeter, because we want that outside area more crusty, more of a raised elevation in our center mass. And if they start collapsing on you, just shape it up with your hands, just like that. So we're going to either use a stamp. Now I don't have one, but you can take a fork. And if you want to get a little cool with it, I recommend actually taking 2 forks. So let's grab a second one here. And let's make the second one smaller than the first. And I'm going to do little circles. Iranians, comment down below. Tell me if you know what simple little symbol I made over here. They should know. And I have a little bit of salt water here. You're going to brush the bottom of that with salt water. And that's how it sticks to our little pizza stills in the oven. Dash the surface like this. Put my dough back down. Rotate it a few times. And now, we're going to take some of that onion oil. Just put a bit of that over the top. There you go. So you'll rub that in gently. Just using your fingers, evenly distribute that. Make sure you get that crust too. Okay, so now our oven is preheated to 500. We have some water here. You might be wondering why. I'll show you in a moment. Open this up quick. You see a steel down there. Gotta move fast. So I'll take that bread, just like so. Reach in. Drop it down. I'm sure you heard that. Now, dip your fingers in the water and splash them into there. And close it. There you go.
Wow, what a start and what a return. It's been a while since the last time we traveled together. And I want to say thank you, truly, to everyone who waited, who asked when the next episode was coming, and who encouraged the Seve Sher channel to come back to life. This was just our first step in our new Silk Road series, and there's so much more ahead. Next, we'll be making our way to Don Juan, the edge of the desert, caves full of stories, much more. So, until then, thank you so much for being here. I promise you, there's good things to come. I've missed this, and I've missed you. Stay tuned.